Good evening, everybody. It's me, Comic Crack. I'm starting a little earlier tonight. I gotta be up early tomorrow. Um, let's just kind of jump into things here with a little bit of this. Let's see if this causes me any issue here.
Underneath the green veranda, singing my song for Mad Miranda. They call me the Midnight Moses. Everything I touch is coming on rosy.
So,
Hey!
it's a name that I've heard about for many years. I don't think I've ever heard any of their music. It's the sensational Alex Harvey Band. A couple of friends of mine were talking about it the other day. Um, and I did some looking into it. This Midnight Moses is a killer tune. I love their kind of stage presence. They legit look a little twisted. It's a great song. That riff is unbelievable. And this guy is just a bizarre dude. I think that I don't know if you can hear that music as I'm playing it. Guess I'll find out on the rewind. Kind of look legitimately unhinged though. I think that Alex Harvey himself, I think that's the singer's name anyway, he was like 40 or something when that band, when he finally got that band. Thanks. Yeah, you can hear it. 666. How's it going there? Video Homicide. So I think that the band themselves had performed in the stage play of Hair, and he kind of got this band together when he was, like I said, around 40 or something. And they kind of had a little bit of I think they generated quite a bit of interest. I've heard just a handful of songs. I haven't heard a ton of it. There's a few tunes that so far I've heard I'm not as crazy about. Like I said, though, I think it's their live presence that's really amazing. So I'll make sure that I link that video in the description of this one. His voice isn't the best. But the song is so good and that performance is so good. It's worth watching that clip. Sweet. Yeah, no, it's good to see you here live. I have some stuff that I don't know you might be interested in. We're going to talk. I'll probably do those ones first when we start talking about comics. And then the other thing I wanted to give a shout out to Modit Part, who has sent me a couple of things. This is the one that I've started watching. I'm 3 episodes in. It's a show called The Owl's Legacy, and it's kind of looking at Greek history and comparing it to kind of modern day. This was made in 1989, pardon me, by a guy named Chris Marker, who it's a name I'm not, pardon me, I wasn't familiar with. I've never heard this. I was doing a little bit of reading. He was sort of adjacent to like the French New Wave kind of thing. He was more political and more making documentaries in a unique kind of way. So this is my first experience with him. So shout out to Modit Part for putting this in my ear. This episode is episode 3. So far, it's been my favorite one. It's pretty heady stuff. I find that I'm having trouble, especially with the first couple of episodes, where I was having a little bit of trouble following it. I think that's partially due to the way he tackles a documentary just through dialogue and conversations and sort of having a basic framework for the episode. But this one is pretty great. 26 minutes. It's all on YouTube. Well worth watching. I feel like as I was talking about this, something else popped in my head, but I'm not sure what. So give that a shot. Again, links will be in the description. And finally, for this, before we get into comics, I'll show you one last thing. It's been a while since I've written anything on my Substack, my MERZSTACK. Yesterday posted 4 separate kind of reviews. 2 on a environmental percussion, volume 1 and 2. One kind of overview and thoughts about the 9 studies of ephemeral resonance that Masami Akita put out this year through Urashima. It was the record label, an Italian record label. And then a quick review of an album called Offering as well, too. So haven't added to the Substack for quite a while. So it was good to kind of get some stuff going on there. If you're interested, the whole Substack is about Merzbow. It's all about noise music. So I realize it's not for everybody. As you can see by these dynamic numbers here, 15 views. So it's fun doing this stuff regardless, just like the YouTube thing. It's not about getting a million views or anything. I genuinely don't care too much about that. It's nice to have some people engage with it. Don't get me wrong. But that's not the main reason I'm doing it. One of the main reasons I'm doing it is I just enjoy listening to the music. I think I've got, 26 articles, reviews. I don't really know what to call them, but there you go. And then speaking of music, shout out to Blake. I had talked about his zine called Copy This. I ordered, so this is issue number 3, right? I believe so, yes. I ordered issues number 1 and 2 from him, and I ordered a cassette. He was nice enough to send me 2 cassettes. The first one is Northwood's Improvisers, which I have already listened to digitally, and I really dig this one. Kind of instrumental jazz. Not too wild and out there and free, but still pretty damn good. And then this is a soundtrack, music composed by Abscess Grank. Ergus von Licht is the name of it. I don't know what this is about. I sent the digital downloads to a couple people on Twitter. And they came back and were telling me that it kind of reminded them of, it was Lillian Generoso, cartoonist that we've talked about before, probably 2 years ago at this point when I first met them. And they were saying it sort of reminded them of Terry Riley. So that I'm curious to listen to it. I was going to listen to some stuff last night, but I was wiped and went to bed early, or early-ish, I guess, early for me. So that's it for music and all that kind of thing. I won't get into anything further. Why don't we jump in with the first bit here. So a lot of this stuff that I was reading was from Nate. If you go back to my archives, there was a giant random act of kindness. There's been 2 of them actually from Nate. So a lot of this stuff that I read was from the last package that he sent me. So let's start out with this one because it's a bit of a story, and I found a couple of other strips by the same artist in another magazine. This is the stuff I think you might dig. Maybe not this one, Video Homicide, but the ones we're going to talk about right away. So this is Fun Boys Spring Special, and it is always a mark of quality when you see the Tundra tag on this thing. And it also has not one, but a double cover, special double cover. So on the inside, there's an overview or a write-up or an introduction, I guess, by Michael T. Gilbert, the guy who did Mr. Monster. He's worked in Underground Comics as well, too. So he kind of talks about, this is Bonavert. What the heck is his first name? Jeff Bonavert. So this issue is from 1991. A group of cartoonists sort of discovered him at a convention in 1977 or 75, the Bay Area Con, so the California Berkeley Bay Con, and they were amazed by his art that he was producing at that time. And I'll show you that stuff. It is really mind-blowing. This is a different style, but I wanted to show you this first to kind of get a sense of who he is. He had a and they just loved what he was doing. I think he was like in high school when he was kind of at this convention tabling and showing his art, and it really caught people's attention. He was scheduled to do a single issue of an underground book that was going to be all of his stuff. Apparently that deal fell through. They don't talk about who that deal was originally with in this introduction here, but it fell through. His stuff ended up kind of floating around to other places, underground comics, ground level comics, that sort of thing. So cutting to this, he's just a huge fan of comics. So this Fun Boys, it's a very kind of nice story actually about three friends, these three kids. It's Saturday morning. We visit each of their houses. It's a pretty wholesome goddamn book actually. It's kind of good. So we visit all three of their houses where they're having having breakfast in a rush because they got to get to Pop's comic book store. Because that's what they do every single Saturday. They hop on their bikes and race down to Pop's to hang out with him for a little bit, look at some comics, pick up some comics. In this particular one, there's a new issue of Fantastic Four that's out, so each of them gets a copy of Fantastic Four. Yeah, it's a really nice style. It doesn't blow me away, but I do like it. And it's stuff like this where you can get a sense of what we're going to see in a little bit here when we go back in time. Like I said, this issue was 1991. So this style, this kind of harkens back to what we're going to look at. So they go and grab the comics, doing what boys do and what kids do, racing around on their bikes. Whoever's the last one there is a big loser, that sort of thing, kind of teasing each other. They go and hang out with Pop for a little while, and they talk comic books and have a look on the shelves. Like I said, they each get a copy of Fantastic Four. And now they're going to go to the park, sit, and read their comics. But unfortunately, the neighborhood bully is here at the park, not wanting anything to do with them and starting to harass them. They do end up engaging with him, unfortunately. And he steals one of the kids' comic and tears it to shreds, which freaks them out. So they end up going back to Pop's to see if he can repair the book, because the conversations they've been having with him, he does some book repairs as well too. He said it's too far gone, and he has one single issue left behind the counter, and that single issue has a double cover, which is why they put the double cover on this comic as well. And one of the other kids just kind of catches on, and as his buddy leaves, he says, you were keeping that one for yourself, weren't you, because it was going to be worth some money? He said yes, and he said, you're just giving it away because he felt bad that he lost his book. He said, you got me there, my friend. So a really nice kind of wholesome little story from Bonnevert there. So once I kind of saw this and read that introduction by Michael T. Gilbert, I don't think I realized that Gilbert had done some underground comics work. So that would include, and this is where it really gets interesting, that would include one of the greatest underground comics covers of my entire collection. There's a lot of them, but this is right up there. So this is New Paltz number 3, also known as Iron Soul. Iron Soul Stories. And that is I'm blanking on his name again, Larry Todd front cover, and it's a fucking stunner. I don't know if you have this one, Video Homicide there, but this is worth getting. So this is more kind of ground level, I guess. Yeah, no, it's an incredible cover. This is more kind of like what they labeled above ground. So it had kind of some of the ideals of the underground comics. It didn't go necessarily as far as underground comics, but they weren't really fully mainstream comics. So I guess it was this era's independent books, basically. So this one has some Bonnevert stuff in it. And so this is from 1977. don't have a year. Oh yeah, no, his is dated 1977 as well. So there's 3 stories by Bonavert in this one. 2 of them were what was supposed to appear in his underground comic, and then there's another one that I think maybe he did specifically for this. But here's what his style used to look like. It's fucking wild, and it was this stuff that a bunch of cartoonists saw at that convention that really sold them on who the hell, yeah, you consider it underground, Eliza? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with you. You wouldn't get much of an argument from me. I do feel like it does border that a little bit, but yeah, I would buy that as well too. So this is the stuff that he was creating, and I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure that when he started doing comics, he was still in high school. So I don't know exactly how old he is in this stuff, 18 to 20 years old. Maybe Eliza, maybe you know. So there you go. It's really great. The storytelling is good enough as well too. This whole book is kind of sci-fi-ish type horror stuff. Like I said, it doesn't really go too wild. There's one story in here that goes wild, and I'm glad you're here, Eliza, because the cartoonist on it I was looking for online, and I couldn't find any other comic work. I saw a bunch of paintings that they had done, but no comic work. So we'll kind of take a look through this whole thing. It's a beefy comic as well too. So this is Michael T. Gilbert putting this out, and his company was called Moods, I think is what Moods Comics or Moods Publishing Empire is what he labels it as in here. So based out of Orinda, California. So that's the Bonavert. We do get a bunch of other stories in here. Most of them, again, it really reminds me more of like Star Reach or something like that. It has that kind of feel for me. Still entertaining cartooning overall, though most of the stories were just fun. I listened to some of 9 studies. I've been more into the stuff with drums lately. I'm probably 8 of those views. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Well, that's good to know. Thank you for your support, Chaos and Comics. I appreciate it. And yeah, as far as like Merzbau's percussion stuff, I don't shy away from that stuff, even though I remember originally when he started, like, because I've been following him since, what is it, 95 that Pulse Demon came out. I probably got that when it first came out in 1995. I had heard him on some compilations before that, specifically the Japanese American Noise Treaty, but that was the first full Merzbau album for me. So as I started kind of diving into his catalog, the years are progressing, and he starts bringing percussion and rhythm elements. And I remember at first going like, fuck, you know, that kind of attitude of noise to me at that time was a very specific thing, and it didn't include things like drums. I got over that pretty damn quick though, because he just dealt with it so insanely well. And I think the time that it really kind of came to the forefront for me was that 13 Japanese Birds, because that one is all centered around live percussion. And I saw him performing that type of stuff. He had brought a drummer in with him, and I can't remember the guy's name. Was it Balat's Pandy or something like that? He's done some records with him as well too. So it was great to kind of see that stuff get performed live as well too. I've seen him live a couple of times. But so the drum stuff, once that 13 Japanese Birds hit, I was fully immersed into like, this is incredible. It's an incredible other texture. It gives it a completely different feel. So quick sidebar, back to comics. So this next one, In Spite of Ancient Astronauts, there's a couple where Michael T. Gilbert does some work with other artists. So in this one, it's script and pencils by Kevin Meek. Inks on page 1 are by Michael T. Gilbert, and page 2 by Alan J. Gordon. We'll see something similar happen in a second here in one of the other stories. Not bad stuff. Oh, you got the Cassette zines today. Haven't gone through them yet. Yeah, no, I haven't read through issues number 1 and 2. I've sort of dipped my toes into them. Another great pinup there. And so then we get into, again, Art by Michael T. Gilbert, script by Harvey Sobel. They were big fans of the one and only Martian Manhunter, so they created a short story with Martian Manhunter. Michael T. Gilbert does the pencils throughout. I think he also inks his own last page, but for the rest of it, the rest of the other pages have a different inker over top of his pencils. And honestly, it looks pretty great. It's a fun enough little story focused on Martian Manhunter with some pretty cool pages here. I mean, those panels are pretty great. Almost looks like Grixley there a little bit, who we're going to talk about again in a bit. Page 4, inked by Brian Buniak. And Jesus, I don't stand a chance of reading that. Mark Rowland is that page there. We also get Steve Lealoha pinup in here, and it's Pan reading an issue of Warlock, which, according to the internet and then confirmed by Sleepy Reader in our chat on Ross's channel, that he was inking at the time as well, too. So really nice looking piece there. Then we come back to some more Bonnevert with a story called Rot, which is the image that we've captured for tonight's stream there, whatever. So if you remember that, the first comic, you can see some of the similarities as far as like the line work. There's a lot less shapes, I guess, like very obvious shapes in Fun Boys, but there is still elements of his style there. I don't know how long it took him. They did say in one of these write-ups, took him an obscene amount of time to do a single page in this style. So eventually he adapted his style and made it a little more streamlined, a little more easier to do. But I mean, damn it, man. It's pretty rewarding seeing the amount of work put into this and seeing it on the page, because it really does stand out from everything else. We get a little bit of an editorial here. So there's a little write-up on the artist. So for the Bonnevert section, it says, of all the fine works in this book and all the very talented artists doing these works, Jeff's artwork to me is far and away the most powerful graphically. Jeff's maniacally geometric style, as seen in Madhouse, Rot, and Black as Ink, strike one as the first real departure in traditional comic styles in years. Jeff is a 23-year-old student at a graphic arts trade school. With the exception of My Fears, which is in Star Reach number 6, we're going to look at that right away. The works in this book are Jeff's first published stories. An entire Jeff Bonnevert comic book, Weird Things, was originally to be published by an established underground company. That unfortunately fell through. Their loss was our gain, as some of the pages in Iron Soul stories were originally meant for that book. Rot and Madhouse were drawn in 1975. Black as Ink was penciled in 1976 and inked in October 1977. Jeff spends anywhere from 20 to 80 hours per page. What a perfectionist. The future, in Jeff's own words, to continue my style, to improve and explore. It's punk art. It's progressive art. Progressive art, it's something different. It's something better. So there you go. And then one of my favorites, Boxwell, Tim Boxell is his name. He signs his name as Grixley. I'm a fan of this guy. I have a couple of other things with him in it. There's one comic he did all to himself. Of course, I'm blanking on it. I'm sure Eliza will put it in the chat. But I really like his style. There's something about it that works very, very well. I love this opening page, the kind of unusual angle, the fact that the character takes up such a small spot on that page. I like all that stuff. We get a little bit of a crack there as well too. The lettering of Old Fruit is fantastic. The story itself was kind of silly, to be honest. There's these group of guys that always kind of hang out and bother these young boys who come walking by. His dad calls them the Fruits. Stay away from the Fruits. So we get kind of this story. His friend goes to spend some time with the Fruits and then is found dead. And it turns out the fruits aren't fruit at all. They're actually vegetables from another planet. So, you know, just kind of a really, honestly, I mean, if I'm going to be blunt, kind of a stupid story, to be honest, but the artwork is really, really nice. Grixley has some really nice style there. Tim Boxall. We get a Nestor Redondo pin up here. Michael G. Gilbert and Alan J. Gordon doing one called Oops. I want to get to, if Eliza, if you're still here. Yeah, Image of the Beast. There you go. That's the one I was trying to think of, is his most famous work. So this is the artist, Mark Rowland. There's no race like home. What do you know about Mark Rowland, Eliza? Because when I looked him up, all I saw was more recent stuff, but it was paintings. I loved the art in this one, even though I couldn't really follow the story. Doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's the art that kind of gets you through page to page. But this is almost like, you know, it's like an early stage of Jim Thompson without the, it's kind of like his roughs before he goes hyper detailed and does his kind of noodle hair and stuff like this. But I was really taken by the art in this. But like I said, in my little bit of digging, I couldn't find any info. Not familiar. Damn. I was hoping you were. So this is the one that to me would put it firmly in kind of the underground comics category, because this is really, really very hippie-ish and so really fits in with that underground kind of aesthetic. But like I said, just a stunner for art. I really like this stuff. Like, this page is gorgeous, but I love the look on our main character there. Really great. So and in the write-up on Comics Joint, they were saying that it feels like it's part one to some sort of epic, but there was never any follow-up, and even on Comics Joint they don't give any information on him. So yeah, so this was, and then here's Black as Ink, the final Bonavert comic in here. Surprisingly good, though. I really, really enjoyed this. And I think one of the fun things about comics in general, but kind of doing this digging, is that you sort of, you do kind of go down these rabbit holes, and it's nice to revisit stuff in the collection. I've had this forever. I don't think I've ever read it. So it was really good excuse to sit and kind of read through this. So let's look at some of Bonavert's stuff in Star Reach. So this is Star Reach number 7. He only appeared in 2 issues of Star Reach. I think he also appeared in Imagine, but I can't find where I put my Imagine books. I don't know where the hell they are in this room, so I gave up. So we'll look at some of this. Again, it's going to be the same style as that. And there you go. Ground level comics, Star Reach. This is definitely the one. Like, we get a Dave Sim story here right off the top. And Bonavert comes in. Nope. Somewhere here. Give me one sec. I thought it was near the front. Obviously not. Here we go. My Fears is this one, dated 1977 as well. So it looks like he did quite a bit of work in 1977. Just this student battling with fears. No sleep tonight. My fears are up and about. No. They're coming soon. They will be here. Life used to be so good. All my dreams were coming true. What about now? Well, those dreams have become my nightmares. And just kind of how your fears can sort of control your life. So there's his very cartoony monsters that represent the fears. They're so great. Really, really cool stuff. And then he also appeared in issue number 17 on the cover and doing The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. So the last couple of issues of Star Reach were magazine size. So this one's quite a bit bigger. than the other ones there. Makes it difficult to put them all in one space and keep them all together. Also nice to get a little more bigger size on his art. This one has a lot more blacks on the page. I find that some of the panels don't work as well as we've seen in the other books. But still, I don't think he's Canadian, Eliza. No, I don't think so. They did do a breakdown. I think he's from, let's see, they might have put it in this one. I know I saw it somewhere. Jeff Bonavert was from, of all places, Hayward, California is where he was from, according to Star Reach number 7. So there you go. There's a little bit of a look at Mr. Jeff Bonavert. On with the rest of the books we read. I'll start on the ones that were just good, you know. I think we were talking about it when I think it was last weekend when we were talking about Domu, and 420 had said in the comments, instead of digging too much into we're all Canadians in our hearts, it's true. Instead of kind of digging in cheap bins, getting that money together to buy yourself a bigger book. So this is all cheap bin stuff. And when I read a chunk of stuff like this, I kind of, that sentiment gets even more real for me, where I kind of wish, you know, these ones were gifts. It's amazing stuff. It's one of those chunks where most things that I'm about to talk out were just kind of okay. None of it really blew me away. I think one of the things that I love about digging into these kind of books is there's always that possibility you're going to uncover some sort of gem, even if it's only something that you yourself as a comic fan are just discovering. What do you mean you don't know about Rick McCullum? And then all of a sudden you get some comments from people on videos, which is fantastic as well too for backstory. But then every once in a while you get a chunk of books where you don't feel like you discovered too much. So this is Wu Wei number 3. I think there were 8 or 9 issues of this, written and drawn by Oscar Stern. It's basically a one-man anthology, and it's kind of that black and white work. This is 1995 is when this came out. It's kind of that black and white work where it's sort of mid-level. It's not it's got to be a step or two down in ability to kind of give you something to grab onto, or a step or two up to be something that's truly kind of mind-blowing. There's this sort of weird middle area where it's competent and stuff and it looks fine, but there's just not enough to it to kind of really sink my teeth into or get me excited about turning the page. You know, even with this kind of, he does this a few times. The first, like, I think there's like 3 different panels that sort of introduce you to this part of the story that are intercut in between these kind of double pages of story. So, I mean, you can see that's a great example of those pages. It's fine. He looks proportional. He looks pretty good. The poses are pretty good and everything, but it's just not quite at a level where it's super, super engaging. And again, that level can be higher or lower for me. There's some more there. We do get a story where there's a character kind of uncovering his father's life. This was probably maybe the one that was a little more interesting out of the whole issue. Just this idea of older generation that had gone to war and didn't talk about things. And then when they die, then people start maybe uncovering, not secrets, but maybe uncovering more of their life. And now they're gone, so they can't really ask them about what this stuff was and what it was like at the time. So this was probably my favorite out of the stories in here. And then using some photography as well too. So not too bad. And then last, there's these short strips called Tatters, where you as the reader are engaging with the character on the page. And again, this one had some pretty good moments in it. I love these kind of thicker black marks that are making up very, very basic, giving you a very basic idea of a sleeve and an arm kind of thing, so your brain can fill in the rest. I like that kind of stuff. But these strips didn't leave much either. And then we get some pages from Sketchbook that he kind of gives some commentary on as well too. So that was Wu Wei number 3. Pentacle. What's this title? Pentacle, the Sign of the Five, from Eternity Comics. This was a 4-issue miniseries, so this is the final issue of this miniseries. There is talk in this about doing another one. I don't know if that ever happened. I didn't look into any of this. First thing that caught my eye is our main characters are called the Warlock Five, and not the Warlock Five from the Aircell comic, but a different Warlock Five. This is from 1991 is when this came out. There's a real kind of Keith Giffen ambush buggy type of feel to this book, not only in kind of like the pacing and the storytelling, the sort of when you come into a mini series at this stage and everything is kind of, you're getting the kind of quick recap of where we are, and you see that it's kind of fucking bonkers. There's a place being overrun by rats, and they're talking about wielding this magic. Someone is going to become the what do they call it? I don't know. Kind of like the maybe they just call him the Warlock. I don't remember. I think they had a word for him. There's this vampire-esque kind of woman who's sucking people's souls from their bodies and getting power. They turn into kind of these mindless zombies. There's all sorts of bizarre shit going on, and you're sort of playing catch up. So with some of the style of art, though, there was a couple of panels specifically that really reminded me. I don't know, there's something about this stuff that reminds me of reading some of those Ambush Bug comics. This year, I don't remember if it was Ambush Bug or Son of Ambush Bug, where they start introducing characters from the Thriller book as well, too, that was around at the time. But there is a sense of that. Howler Mouse was saying this afternoon that there's some John Muth vibes to this as well too. So it was fine. Again, one of those books that if I saw the other 3, I might pick them up just because. But I'm not. They're not going on a list in the phone. If I flip by them in the bins and I don't remember, I also won't be too worried about it. So it was just okay. And then we get a Jeremiah ad on the back cover. Dipping my toes into some Jessica Abel stuff, a name that I've heard quite a bit. This is Art Babe, Volume 2, issue number 1 from Fantagraphics. This is 1997, I think it said. 1997. This really felt like a early 90s autobio indie Fantagraphics book, to such a degree that it was this weird experience reading parts of this and flashing back to that era, not only that era of comics, but also that era in my life when they start referencing some of the music that they're listening to in their car, and this sort of waxing all poetic and getting into deep conversations with your friends about where you're going to be and what life is going to hold for you. And I see these mediocre reviews have driven people from the room. We've dramatically dropped to 2 viewers. So it's this kind of a story about a relationship between this man and this woman who have kind of reconnected through this job. We get the storytelling broken down to their perspectives. So we start off with his perspective of their date that goes horribly. Then we cut to a few pages of her talking about this. So now we see everything that we've just experienced from her angle. So we as the readers know that they both have crushes on each other, and it's just how that's going to pan out. And romance ensues, and heartbreak ensues, and miscommunication. And so it wasn't, again, another one. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't incredible either. I don't know if I would keep going on this or not. I mean, maybe if I saw some 50 centers, I might give it another stab, but it didn't do too much for me. And then second last book of the night, we're going to end on a high note. Trust me, don't everybody leave. We're going to end on a high note. I promise. Not all of it is mediocre. This is by Bruce Zick. Bruce Zick. It's called Atlas, issue number 1 of 4 from Dark Horse. Bruce Zick has done Zone Continuum as well as Terminal Point. Terminal Point didn't do too much for me, but I really liked Zone Continuum. The thing that I loved about Zone Continuum was his art style and his kind of foreshortening of people and camera angles and things. It was a really fun book for that. So that was kind of my favorite out of his stuff. This style you can still see Forgerelli. This style, this book, you can still see his style from those other books, but there's much more of a kind of Kirby influence to this one. It had some really good moments, including when we're first realize what the heck is going on and who that character might have been on the front cover. We don't know if he's a good guy or bad guy, but our sort of main characters in this discover this hand lying in the street. And in Gulliver's Travels fashion, this is an amazing page. We get our kind of Atlas character crashed to earth, wedged in between those buildings. Like, you can feel everything on that page. This is probably the best page in this book, honestly. I really love the way this looks. I'd love to see this in black and white, actually. So the rest of the story is this idea of gods battling out in outer space, as we can see here. One of the humans touches his scepter, and then he can kind of see who he is and what he's been up against. So he is actually sort of this space god, I guess, who is protecting Earth from all sorts of other gods that are coming to do whatever horrible things to us. Where it really jumps out at you as a Kirby is are these 2 pages here. Beautiful page, really, really nice looking stuff. I swear that's even like a Kirby character from some of his books. People who know his stuff a lot better than I will. I'm sure there's more references throughout this whole book, but this is the one that seemed most obvious to me. So it's Bruce kind of doing his Marvel comic sort of thing. This superhero universe. This one, I would look for the other issues for sure. I'm curious just to see more of his art, and especially because I have his other stuff, it would be good to have more of it too. I like kind of collecting artists and seeing a bunch of their work and having it in the drawers. I've started doing it with some artists, actually collecting all of their stuff from random companies and putting it together, like Rick McCollum, who I mentioned earlier, all of his work being collected in one section. So having the Rick McCollum, the Pete Bagg section, the Daniel Klaus section, the Jim Woodring section, the Guy Davis section. So all of their work is in one. So if you like this kind of thing, or you like anything you see here, dig into it. It wasn't, this was probably the better read of these last ones, but it still didn't do too much for me. But then again, you see pages like this and I am back in love with it. There's just something really great about his style. There is that reference for sure, but there is still his own style in there. So there you go. That was Atlas. Negative reviews or not, I'm still hanging. I like your honest opinions. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So for the last book tonight, this is the best read of the week for me. I think I was talking last weekend about somehow I missed out on Out of Alcatraz issue number 2. Sorry, and I didn't bring any water down, did I? No. I missed out on Out of Alcatraz issue number 2, so I went to Red River Bookshop to see if I could find it. I was hoping they might have a copy on the rack. They didn't. There's one more comic shop in town I want to check out to see if I can find it. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get there. So while I was there, Red River Bookshop is one of the greatest places in town. It's always been one of my favorites. I love digging through the shelves, as chaotic as the whole place is. So I spent a bit of time looking through the kind of Marvel and DC graphic novels. He had a nice chunk of Doctor Strange stuff. So this one's called Flight of the Bones. and I vaguely remembered the title and recognized the art, so I probably pulled this off the shelf. When this came out, it was a whopping $32.99 Canadian. So this was a $10 purchase. I got 2 Doctor Strange books, actually. This one I've read before, but I didn't remember reading it until I bought it again. I think I had it before. This is the Sorcerer Supreme with Doctor Strange, and we'll have a quick look at this afterwards too. Flight of Bones was a 4-issue miniseries from 2016. That writing is so goddamn small. Take my word for it. That's got to be what it was. This book also collects a couple of short stories from some anthologies, and then a single issue called we'll get there. Well, we'll see the title when we get there. It's called The Mystic Hands of Doctor Strange, and that's one of the parts that really surprised me. Is Ted McKeever is in here doing a short story of Doctor Strange. I never knew that he did a Doctor Strange, so that was when I was kind of flipping through the book. It was his art that I saw first. Honestly, from cover to cover, this is such an entertaining book. You know my opinion on more modern Marvel stuff. It's not like I hate it all, because I absolutely don't. Or DC stuff. I don't hate it all. It's just not really my thing. So when I dip my toes into some of these characters, specifically Doctor Strange and Daredevil, I'm usually more disappointed than enchanted by it, I guess. This one was so goddamn impressive. I would highly recommend this one to anybody who wants to get back into reading some Doctor Strange, or wanting to see what fun can be had with this character. This entire 4 issues was really reminiscent of like DC's Vertigo. It had a real kind of easygoing, fun storytelling for it. It's not super serious. It's not super goofy. It's just a superhero book, and it's Doctor Strange battling with the fact that he can't use his hands. He goes to see a surgeon himself who has had a horrible thing happen to him, a tragedy happen to him at the operating table where somebody died under his knife. He's trying to convince him that he's the only one that can do this surgery to kind of correct and so he can gain use of his hands again. In the background to all this, Doctor Strange has this sort of girlfriend named Topaz, and she's involved with a cult. And this cult is trying to bring about demons back to Earth. And of course, it's Dormammu. So it becomes this kind of battle. Doctor Strange battling his own feelings of being unable to, I don't know, he's just not the same person that he used to be, feeling a little helpless. Topaz kind of feeling a little empowered, reconnecting with a friend, being part of this cult, and then being basically taken advantage of to be kind of a vessel to attack Doctor Strange through. Really cool story. Some really nice pages too. Very P. Craig Russell on this layout here, but so much fun. It just really struck a nice balance for storytelling. Again, that just really reminded me of DC stuff back when I was reading a lot of that, you know, especially like things like Spectre and Deadman. I'll show you a couple more pages and then we'll kind of move on to the rest of the book. So I should say that on some of this, so Paul Chadwick doing the pencils, Jimmy Palmiotti doing the inks. This is part 3. I think Chadwick does part 3 and 4. And you do get a sense of the change, but it's not incredibly abrupt. It's not like it completely changes direction or anything. And then we'll show you Dormammu, and then we'll kind of move on to the next parts of this book. So once that story wraps up, which is about half of the book, we start to get into this. First story comes from Marvel Shadows and Light from 1997, issue 1, Strange Reflections by Michael Golden, with John Beatty, Al Milgrom, and Richard Starking's comic craft. Doctor Strange looking into a mirror, this boy looking into the TV, seeing reflections of yourself. Again, just really nice little story with some pretty gorgeous black and white. It is some of the black and white, though, that you do get a sense that it was made for color, where there wasn't a lot of delineation going on because this was never supposed to. My opinion is, I don't know that this is a fact, that it was never supposed to be presented in black and white. So I'm unsure of why this was, or if I'm just completely wrong about that. But this style of black and white always kind of strikes me as it's just holding lines for color. So there's not, they know that it's going to get somewhat masked. So it's a different approach to doing some cartooning. Nice nonetheless, though. Really enjoyed it. Stuff like this is great. Kind of throwbacks to more vintage Doctor Strange in there. And then we get from Shadow and Light, 1998, number 2, we get a Jim Starlin Doctor Strange story. And he sort of says the same thing in this one, that he wanted to go back to kind of the fun of the character and the fun of those kind of that era of Marvel Comics. And man, oh man, he pulls it off. It's gorgeous stuff like this, man. Really, really nice. And again, it feels like it fits in with this whole book, this whole throwback to another era, sort of updating it art-wise maybe, but really embracing that type of storytelling. So we also get again, Michael T. Gilbert. This is from Marvel Double Shot number 4. So Michael T. Gilbert, who we were looking at before with the Iron Soul stories, doing a little color piece here. This was maybe the one that's the most kind of kid-friendly in the whole book. It's about a genie stuck in a bottle, or is it? And Doctor Strange and these kids get trapped in the bottle along with this little imp or whatever. Or do they? Fun enough. There's elements of Gilbert in here for sure. It seems a little sloppier than what I'm used to seeing with his Mr. Monster stuff, but it ain't bad. The Mystic Hands of Doctor Strange. Yes, so there we go. Now we get to the Mystic Hands of Doctor Strange. So here's the cover for the next 4 short stories here. So I'm guessing this was just a single issue. So the first one is The Cure, writer Kieran Gillen, artist Fraser Irving. Then we get Melancholia, Peter Milligan with Frank Brunner. And so this is How It Feels, which is Ted McKeever doing writing and art. And then Duel in the Dark Dimension, written by Mike Carey and art by Marcos Martin. So off the bat here, Fraser Irving. Nice style on this one too. A little softer look overall. Looks a little more digital. Not too bad. But let's get to the whole reason that we're here. I'll just show you this one too. Mephisto as well too. So that's a pretty great page there. But the reason we're here, and the big reason why I picked this sucker up, was my favorite. Oh, if we get there, not yet. Sorry, I thought his was next. Oh, right. Is this the Pete Milligan one next? Next up, sorry, is Pete Milligan and Frank Brunner. Brunner is fantastic. The story about a husband and wife that are in this sort of very abusive relationship. The wife ends up going out and getting into an accident and dying. She sort of haunts this guy because of the things that he said to her. So he goes to Doctor Strange. He wants to get him to, you've got to wipe these memories of her out of me. I can't live like this anymore. I'm a horrible person, yada, yada, yada. So living with regret. So we get a little story there. But Frank Brunner nails it in this one. Pretty nice looking stuff. But back to, again, why I'm here. Mr. Ted frickin' McKeever. Love Ted McKeever. Talked about him many times over the year. Plastic Forks, Metropol AD, Eddie Current, Transit, etc., etc. Huge fan of him. He's done some work with DC. with Batman, a bunch of work with Batman. He did a Superman, Metropolis, or yeah, I think it's called Metropolis. He did a Wonder Woman, Amazons. What else has he done for DC? He did stuff for Vertigo. Again, I think he did some stuff with Pete Milligan as well too. So he's been around for a long time, and I've been a huge fan since I first discovered Metropole AD and Plastic Forks were the first two books from him that I discovered. And this one is such a good time. Like I love this here. So beautiful art. Love seeing some of these guys get a chance to kind of make a bit of money. You know, again, like it's usually what it comes down to for me. Not that I need to see these artists tackle superheroes to kind of legitimize them, because I feel like they're legitimate artists already. I just like the idea that they did get a chance to do a job for a company where maybe they got paid a little bit better than doing some of the stuff they were doing outside of this, you know. So nice looking stuff there. And this last story is Duel in the Dark Dimension. And it's mostly just a prose story with some illustrations included on the pages. So this was a great read from cover to cover. So strong recommendation on this one this week. Probably the standout of the bunch. The other stuff we looked at the front, Bonavert, that's just really, really fun stuff. But this comes highly recommended. So the reason I picked this up, I'm pretty sure I had volumes 1 and 2, and I'm not convinced that this isn't the one that I sold him and now have just bought back because I'm an idiot. I didn't remember reading it. I did remember seeing the art because it is Rodriguez, who we have seen recently in Zatanna and who we're seeing now in Martian Manhunter. So this is the kind of Doctor Strange universe. I think he does most of the issues 1 to 3, and then issue number 5, I think, is what he does. So I'm looking forward to digging into this one again. He didn't have book 2. There's only 2 volumes of this. He didn't have that one. I'm also not convinced I don't have this in the room somewhere. I just don't know where that would be. Let's see if we can pull out some of his other good pages. It's not as wild as what he's doing now, but you still really get the feel for him and the experiments that he sort of expands on with some of his more recent work. So great stuff, really nice colors. I'm looking forward to reading this again, actually. I might wait until I can find the volume 2, though, and read it all as a chunk. Because the other thing that surprises me is that I would get rid of this stuff at all anyway, considering that I'm a fan of Doctor Strange. But there you have it. It's back in my grubby hands again. That's it, everybody. Thanks very much for tuning in and listening to me blather about comics and all sorts of stuff. Always good to see you. Eliza Dominelli, Forgerelli, Chaos in Comics. Who else did we have? Video Homicide, of course, right off the top. Anybody I miss? I don't think so. Great to see you all. And we'll probably see you next weekend. I'm starting work, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have to read. Don't forget, as Rasa was kind of teasing me about this afternoon, how can I forget? You always remind me. This week is when the new Richard Corbin comes out. It's Dimwood. It's the previously unpublished final graphic novel that he was working on before he passed away. Jose Villarrubia kind of did some finishes on it. I don't know how much he had to finish, if it was just coloring some stuff or if there was more work beyond that. I'm sure we'll find out. So that's scheduled to be out this week. It's out already. Eliza's saying it's out already. Did you pick it up and have a flip through it? I'm looking forward to this entire library, but this is the one that I'm probably most excited about. You just need to pick it up. Okay. This is the one that I'm probably most excited about. After this, we get Rolf, then we get Rat God, and then I saw Jose talking on Facebook in the Corbin group, possibly, or maybe on his own, that he's working on Tales of the Arabian Night. So that's one that I don't think has been officially announced yet. So it's good to see there's at least 3 or 4 more books, 3 that have been kind of confirmed and solicited, I guess is the word, and then the 4th that's only been talked about. So it's really great that they're kind of going all in. I'm looking forward to having a shelf mostly filled with that beautiful Dark Horse Corbin library. I cannot wait. Very, very excited about it, obviously, because I talk about it all the goddamn time. Anyway, thanks very much, everybody, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.